You took the risk. You created a business that generates enough revenue to open up positions, open up jobs, and then you invited people to come into those positions, into those jobs. You gave them what they need in order to live the life that they want to live. And yet, you aren't getting any respect from them. They're talking behind your back. They're rolling their eyes at you. They're doing all these different types of things. And why? Why is this happening? You are the boss man or the boss lady. You are the boss. And they still, despite the fact that you control whether or not they get a paycheck, which is not the be all end all, obviously, but you control a good aspect of what makes them happy, yet they are treating you like doo-doo. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why. But before we get into that, what is up? My name is Dean Soto. I am the founder of prosulum.com, prosulum.com. We are a virtual staffing agency. Oh, heck, we're talking about employees, right? We're talking about people who you've hired that don't respect you. And lo and behold, here's a founder of a virtual staffing company who's had hundreds of people work for him. It's a tough thing when you don't know how to garner that trust and respect. But here's the thing. At Prosulum, we have what's called virtual systems architects. So they're not like virtual assistants. They're not like normal employees. They take what you show them, a 5-minute video, 10-minute video. They document it step by step, into a process, into a step-by-step checklist, visuals and everything like that. Your grandma could do it. Once you show them that task, they're not going to ask questions. They're not going to roll their eyes. They're not going to do all this crazy stuff. They're going to look at it, go, oh, okay, that's how you do it. Boom, boom, boom. Nice. And then they're going to actually do the task. And then you give them another and another. 30 tasks later, you have 30 things documented that are all being done without you having to lift a finger. They're happy. You're happy. Massive amount of respect, but we'll get into that in just a little bit. Why don't they respect you? Why don't they respect you? So actually, before we get into that, if that sounds interesting to you, go to www.prosulum.com. All right, let's get into this. The eye rolls, missed deadlines, tasks that are half done, silence in meetings, all these different things. You know, deep down, you know when you're not getting the trust and the respect that you need in order to be a good leader, right? This is not because of you personally. There are some really nice leaders who have a massive amount of respect, and you have really hard-nosed, rough, detailed leaders who get no respect. And vice versa, there's some really nice leaders who get zero respect, and there are some really tough leaders who have a massive amount of respect from their team. Why is that? This is where it's a skill that's developed that is based around a framework that we talk about in almost every single one of our videos. But this framework allows for this pain of disrespect to actually be shown more and then dealt with in a way that is loving and acceptable to both the person who works for you and for you. Okay. Here's the thing, man. Respect is earned, not given. There was a lieutenant colonel. She was actually it was 2 lieutenant colonels. when I was deployed overseas, 2 lieutenant colonels, and it had nothing to do with them being a woman. It was just who they were, because there were some freaking phenomenal officers in the Army that were female, and there were some crappy officers that were male. But lieutenant colonel, if you don't know what a lieutenant colonel is, it's basically pretty high up there. It's an 05, right? You have your second lieutenant, first lieutenant, captain, major, lieutenant colonel. Then you get to full bird colonel, which is right before a general. Okay, so it's lieutenant colonel's up there. And these 2 officers, one could not lead a horse to water, not alone make the horse drink. She was just so inept that the only reason people followed her was because they knew that if they didn't, they would get disciplined from the UCMJ, which is the military court of justice, right? And then there was another one who was actually so she wasn't really in our section. She just would come in, be annoying, and then leave. There's one that was in our section that just didn't know anything about intelligence, did not know because that was an intelligence analyst, did not know anything about the battlefield, didn't know anything. And then we were constantly cleaning up her mess. Constantly. She would say something that the general would say, "Are you sure about that? I don't know if that's accurate." And our other officer in charge would say, "We'll get back to you, sir." Like almost every single time she spoke, somebody had to clean up her mess. And so she had the title, she had the 05, but man, not only did our section just roll their eyes the entire time, the other sections were the same. They were like, "Who is this? How does she even get to be an 05 in your field?" Because she doesn't know anything. But the thing is, she would start demanding. She would demand, "Oh, you need to respect me. This is my rank," and whatever. And obviously we would, but it was just slowly, we'd find anything we could do to either sabotage her let her do her own thing, and which would end up sabotaging herself, or we would try not to give her. We would do whatever we could to not associate with her at all, which was very difficult, but we didn't get any respect. She didn't deserve any respect because she didn't earn it. It was a pretty nasty mess. Okay. The thing is, respect is built on trust and consistency. It is based around, is our leader going to do what's best for us consistently? Is our leader looking out for our best interests? Is our leader in one day blaming us because we didn't do XYZ, and another praising us because of the same thing? Is our leader telling us to do something without instructions, without clear written instructions, and then chastising us when we're asking for questions, when we're asking questions, and telling us we're dumb because we should know how to do this? If your team doesn't trust that you're always going to be consistent and a source that they can rely on, then the respect starts going out the window. Okay. Do you know your stuff? This is one of the things that with a lot of clients, I shouldn't say a lot of clients, the clients that don't have a systems mindset, clients that don't have a mindset that I need to know that something works before I hand it off to somebody. What they'll do is they'll come in and they'll they'll say, "Hey, I need somebody to do my social media for me." And that could mean one of two things. A good leader is going to say when they say that, they're going to say in their minds, "I know that this works. I use X.com. I use this or this, and this. I've proven that it works. I just don't want to do it anymore because it's taking up a lot of my time." Then you have the other leader that says, "I want somebody to take over and to do my social media account, my social media marketing," but they don't even know what works and what doesn't. They just want somebody to go and start fixing the problem, which is not enough leads coming in, right? The first leader has proven a system, proven that something works. The second leader has no clue if something works and is likely, which normally happens when it's not working the way they want it to work, they blame the person doing it. And so a good leader is going to know their stuff. They're going to know the ins and outs of the thing that they're handing off. They don't need to be an expert at it. For example, the cold email campaign that I have going on that sends out, tens of thousands of emails on a monthly basis, that was set up first by me, and everything around it is set up by me. I might not be the best at it, but I know that it works. And so then I take that and I do a video showing how to manage, how to look at the metrics of the thing, how to respond to certain emails, and so on and so forth. That in and of itself is enough to be able to give that consistency, to be able to pass it on, know what numbers actually make sense, which ones don't. As opposed to, "Hey, I want to do a cold email campaign. Here's a list of 10,000 people. Please email them." And then you get your domain banned and then you blame the person for doing it. Okay. So you have to know your stuff. Okay. And then who are you when no one's watching? This is another thing is, do you take accountability for your mistakes? Are you honest? Are you fair? Are you, if something goes wrong, are you the first one to take responsibility? In the book Extreme Ownership, the authors, Jocko Willing, I forgot the other one, but they talk about, because they were special operations forces, they give numerous examples of people who, despite it was the mistake of their subordinate, they took ownership of the mistake because certain training wasn't in place and things like that. Certain systems weren't in place. Do you take ownership first and say, this didn't work because this has to be my fault in some fashion or another. I'm going to own it before I take it out on this person. Now, if I put everything in place, I train the person and they still don't, then it's different. Sun Tzu had this principle, Sun Tzu from The Art of War, that if I give a command and it's not followed correctly, that first mistake is on me because I wasn't clear enough. If I give the command, if I clarify and I give that command and it's not followed correctly, then it's on them. But every single time he would take responsibility the first time. Is everything that you do predictable? Do you follow through on your commitments? Every time you're inconsistent, it breeds confusion and it erodes trust. Every single time. So this is where you have to have clear expectations. This is why policies, procedures, policies in the sense of they don't have to be these grand things, but this is how we do things. This is the onboarding process. Okay. Which then allows you to delegate and trust that it's going to get done correctly. And then when things don't work, the ability to communicate openly and honest. If your team says this didn't work because of this, this, and this, you're not coming back and saying, hey, no, that's because I know this works. You're just not doing it right. No, letting them be able to have a voice, just like in your family, rather than it being about roles and you should say things like this and you should do things like that. No, be open and honest. Be open and honest in your communication. The more you are, the more that things don't fester. This is why documentation is so important. This is why we stress documented processes, documented systems so much. Any type of unspoken expectations are a failure immediately. This is why you have to document everything, okay, into a checklist. And this is what your expected output should be. This is what it should look like. With cold emails, for every 1,000 emails, you'll get X amount of negative replies, X amount of positive replies. For the positive replies, you're going to do X, Y, Z. For the negative replies, you're going to see what the negative reply actually is. Is it something like, this won't work for me? Well, in those situations, we'll send something back showing that it will, right? These are the expectations of that in the document, showing exactly the different possibilities. You have to make it impossible to misunderstand what's expected. Okay, this is why we do what we do here at Prosulum. And this is why, as a business owner, I created it this way, because I don't want to spend all this time documenting it. I'd rather show via video, let somebody else document it, and then let them do it. Okay. And this allows you to let go of everything. Okay. You hired them for a reason. You're able to let them do their job. When it comes down to it, micromanagement is a sign of fear and not leadership, okay? When you're micromanaging, you're afraid that something's not going to get done. The reason why you're afraid it's not going to get done is because you do not have things clearly defined, clearly put into a flow, clearly put into a process, clearly put into a system. That's it. But when you do have things documented, like with our VSAs, show them how to do it. It takes 5 minutes of your time, 10 minutes of your time. They document it, and then it's done into a procedure step by step, and then they can do it. You can then delegate that meaningful work and then get the hell out of the way. And when it's documented, you can actually share the why. Why are we doing cold email this way? Why are we doing XYZ this way? Why do we? And you can have it in there as like their first paragraph. We do this because bop. Now everybody knows why we do that. And you're able to then be open about even in your process, be open to some of the challenges. Whether it's in the documentation itself, you can say, hey, you're going to see some of the things. These are some of the things that you might run into. Feel free to let me know, whatever, or feel free to put it into frequently asked questions or whatever. And then in Slack, if you can, you have create a culture, Slack, or I forgot, the Microsoft Teams or something like that, or Google Chat or whatever it is. You start creating a culture where you can then have them give feedback on the process feedback on what's working in the process and what's not working in the process. And that makes a huge, huge difference, because when it's about the process, there's no personality, there's no person getting hurt. This is just part of the process that we need to tweak. We believe that systems are the ultimate respect building tool, because when you document your process, you create clarity. Clarity builds trust, and trust starts to earn respect. You have processes that are part of a system. Let's say you have a lead generation system, and you have a cold email process, you have a LinkedIn prospecting process, you have all these different types of processes, which then leads to clarity, trust, and respect. Because everybody's clear on what is, if something goes wrong, it's not necessarily that person. It could be, if they can't literally follow a step-by-step procedure. More often than not, it's the process that needs to be messed with, updated, which means that a person's feelings is not getting hurt because you're not attacking the person. They're not attacking you, you're not attacking them. And this takes you from resentment and chaos to respect. They know what to do. In fact, a lot of the times, even in my team, like, we'll go days without talking because they're doing their thing, I'm doing my thing, and then, Monday or whatever, we'll come together for a little staff meeting. Sometimes we don't even have a staff meeting during the week because there's other things going on. And so it'll be 2 weeks before we truly talk to each other. It's not because we don't want to, but because the cogs in the machine are working and everyone's working together. Everyone's doing what they need to be doing, right? And we'll slack each other. We'll do different things, but the respect is high from them to me, and the respect is also high from me to them, because I trust them so much when it comes to their job that I don't need to micromanage. It's not about, let me give them all these things and let me do a mandatory fun day. We would do that at Boeing and in the military as well. Mandatory fun days. You had to show up to have fun. Those don't do anything but build resentment. Okay. It's the small little actions, the small consistencies, the clarity of systems. So if that sounds good to you, if you want to start building a massive amount of respect for from your team, from your employees, start documenting. Get a virtual systems architect. Not only do they do the task, not only are they half the cost of your typical in-house employee most of the time, especially in California, you are setting yourself up that every time you show them how to do something, everybody in your business now knows how to do it because it's documented. And then the trust builds, then the productivity builds, and then the scalability builds, and then your business grows exponentially. So if that sounds good to you, go to www.prosulum.com/schedule. Get on a call. We'll see if it's a good fit, and we'll make it happen. Otherwise, go to prosulum.com. Check out, we have a cool, really good video on there that kind of gives you more ideas on how to do stuff like this. We have a bunch of resources. Go check out the blog and everything like that. But if you're ready, go to www.prosulum.com/schedule, and I will see you in the next video.